Hello everyone, welcome to the course on electronic systems for cancer diagnosis. I am Alekhya, TA for the course. Today I am standing here in the clean room facility of Biomedical and Electronic Engineering Systems Laboratory, DESE, IISc Bangalore. So this is a class 10,000 clean room. What is a class 10,000 clean room? Oh yes, when you are working in a fabrication facility like this, so there are different standards, ISO standards. So there is class 10 and there is class 100 and there is class 10,000. So class 10,000 means that the number of, it is classified based on the number of particles and the size of the particle in the given, in the cubic feet area. So today let us see how even before we start off with the fabrication process, let us see how do you follow a gowning procedure while you work in an environment like this. Initially, let us see, I put on a gown and then I pick up a hairnet. So make sure you cover your entire hair. Like you see, I have pretty long hair, but then I tied it up. So when you work in a fabrication facility like this, it is clearly a no to have to have makeup or you have long earrings or accessories. Kindly avoid all of them while you work. Once I am done with the hairnet, I pick up a face mask. So you see there is a small metal strip that would actually help you to fixing them right on your nose. Make sure you cover your entire nose and your mouth. There are two folds towards wearing these face masks, right? One, like I said, you want to keep the particulate matter in the environment as low as possible. So we are the major carriers of particulate matter. So when we sneeze, cough, there is a lot of bacteria or virus which would actually contaminate the area where you work. And the other part is when you are working with wet bench or lithography, you do not want to inhale the harmful gases. So always ensure you wear your face mask right. And then you pick up the right size gloves. The choice of gloves while you work is also important. So the gloves what I am using now is a nitrile glove. So when I am just working just on a microscope or when I am handling devices, I can use these gloves. But when you are working with concentrated acids, when you are working with HF or highly concentrated chemicals, then it becomes very important to wear gloves which are chemical resistant. So it is it is either the Teflon or the MAPA gloves which are mandatory when you are working with harmful chemicals. So yes, now that I have worn my gloves, so there is a sequence which I followed. The importance behind following a sequence is, so say when you wear your gloves first and then wear a mask, what happens is your gloves actually gets contaminated with all the sweat, the salts or the skin flakes which would actually settle on your gloves, and then when you are handling your devices with the same the contaminated gloves, it could hamper the working of your device. So ensure you follow the procedure in a right manner. It is mandatory to rapidly to follow these instructions when you are working in an environment like this. Now let us see how Ratin, who is also a TA for the course, would want to work on one of the systems here. Let us see how he would follow the procedure, come into the clean room and demonstrate to you guys how actually the procedure needs to be followed. As you can see, there is an air curtain which is mounted on top of the entrance door. The main purpose of using the air curtain is it rushes air onto the person or any other equipment which would actually get inside the clean room. So, the purpose of it is to reduce the influx of air on the person would actually reduce the amount of particulate matter which would enter inside the clean room. Now, we have Ratan would pick up the lab coat, and once he wears, like you can see, there is a sensor just beneath. As soon as the door opens, the sensor would activate the air curtain. The rate at which the air flows is approximately 10 meters per second in order to ensure that minimal amount of air influx happens from the outside to the clean room environment. And there is also a sanitizer which is just beside the door. In case you feel your hands are not clean before you work, kindly ensure you make use of the sanitizer and have your hands clean. It becomes very important while you work to ensure you have clean and dry clothes. Make sure you don't wear clothes which have fur or sweater like cardigan, which would actually have stuff which would come out and cause contamination in the air. Once you are wearing your lab coat, you would pick up the right size hairnet. Make sure your hair is completely covered, and once the hairnet has been put on, use the face mask. Like you can see, he's ensured that the face mask, the strip is on top so that it sits properly on his nose, and then pick up the right gloves. It becomes very important to follow these instructions even before you enter your workstation. It causes, if in case you don't follow these instructions in the right procedure, it could cause a lot on your time. It could even impact on the functioning of your device. And if you also feel that you're wearing additional things on your hand, say watch, or you have keys, or you're carrying a mobile phone, also ensure keep them aside in a tray, or you have a specified locker. Please put them, because once your hands gets dirtied, or when you're dealing with chemicals, and there are chances that you might touch back your phone with the same contaminated hand, which is actually a not good practice and which could impact on your health. Once the gowning procedure is done, we also ensure there is a eye gear which is there at one end of the clean room. So there are two types of eye gear, protective gears. So the one which is in Ratan's hand is actually used when you're working on lithography. So within the really harmful gases, you don't want them to impact on your eyes. Your eyesight could be affected or damaged. So always ensure you wear them. Like you could see, he's worn it on top of his glasses. He's got the side. Always wear it on top of them so that it does not hamper your vision while you're in your workstation. Yes, if you could please show us the other glasses which could actually be worn when you're working with microscopy, or when you're working with high intensity light. The light could actually cause some disturbance to you while you're working. So just make sure you wear these glasses while you work. Yes. Now you can see the complete gowning procedure with the hairnet, the safety glasses, the face mask, lab coat, the hand gloves and the shoe cover. Rigorous enforcement of following the gowning procedure in a clean room environment is vital for an effective research. Let's follow a safe and clean process in order to promote healthy research. So now that we've demonstrated the gowning procedure, what ensures the amount of pressure, the amount, what keeps the particulate count to a minimal, and how does it make a class 10,000 clean room? So yes, now that we have seen the complete gowning procedures, There are two folds towards following the gowning procedure. One, it acts as a personal protective equipment so that you safeguard yourself while you work in your workstation, and the other, you don't contaminate the environment where you work. Now, let us see what are the other utilities which would actually enable having a proper temperature, humidity, pressure in an environment like this. The air filtration systems are of three types. One is the EPA, second the HEPA, third is the ULPA. So what is EPA? EPA stands for Efficient Particulate Air Filter. The HEPA stands for High Efficiency Particulate Air Filter, and the ULPA is the Ultra Low Penetration Air Filter. Among these, we have HEPA filters which are used in our lab. So in our lab, we have HEPA filters. There is 1, 2 in the biology section, that is 3, and here this is the 4th HEPA filter, and then there is an air pressure module which is on the other side of the clean room. So why do we have this air pressure module? As you can see, the pressure that is there inside the clean room is a positive pressure, that is, the air is actually pumped up, and the pressure inside the environment in the clean room area is slightly higher than the environment the pressure that is there outside the lab. Why do we have an increase, an increase in pressure when you are working in a lab facility? One, when you have a higher pressure inside the lab, the influx of air from outside to inside the lab would reduce. Hence, the load on the HVAC system would reduce. In order to ensure that the amount of clean filtered air does not flow out, so we have these facilities like the air curtain and the high pressure module, which actually enforces the filtered air to be recirculated within the lab environment. The HEPA filters forms the heart of the air filtration system inside the clean room. These filters have a lifetime like any other air filtration system. These filters, these are used in research laboratories, they are used in defense purpose, they are used in military, they are also used in pharmaceutical industries. The one what we have here has a positive pressure module. And why is it important to make sure they work efficiently, or you always monitor the pressure of these systems to ensure their performance is great. By default, these filters have efficiency up to 99%. When we say efficiency, they can detect filter air particles at sub-micron levels. So now that we've seen that these filters are effectively used in an environment to maintain the positive pressure, condition the air at certain temperature, and also reduce the particulate matter to certain levels, and now we see that they have a lifetime, or a life cycle through which they perform efficiently. So how do we monitor them on a regular basis? We keep a check on the pressure drop. So once there is a significant pressure drop inside, and when you measure the pressure drop inside the lab environment and outside, that actually tells you the performance of these filters. And then how do you actually increase their life cycle? How do you enhance, give a better performance? And how do you reduce the load on the HVAC system? Is that you reduce by following a gowning procedure. Step 1, you would already reduce the particulate matter which would enter the clean room. And the second case is, it also depends on the volume of air that is actually taken in for filtration. The amount of volume, the frequency of the frequency of inflow and outflow of air would impact on its performance. And second thing, is the volume of recirculated air. It recirculates the air, the filtered air. The load on the system would reduce when the air is conditioned, because it's not the complete air which is already being filtered. So 50% of the air is always being recirculated. So once we ensure the air, the particulate matter in your clean room is maintained to certain levels, the load on these systems would definitely, we would ensure that they work better, and we would help, in increasing the life cycle and the performance. I'm sure now that I've demonstrated what actually forms the clean room, what is the kind of environment in a clean room, I'm sure you're all inquisitive to learn more about fabrication, what goes into the devices, how are they fabricated, how are they integrated with electronic systems, and how do you test the biological samples, and how do you store the biological samples. Let's learn more about these devices, how to fabricate them, how can they be incubated, how the cells, biological cells which have been extracted, have been incubated or they are refrigerated, and how do you use microscopes, the different microscopes for different purpose. Let us see all that in our next module. Thank you.